Ever wonder which beloved 70s dinners should make a grand return? Get comfortable as we dive into 25 delicious classics that used to grace our dinner tables. Though a handful of loyal fans still whip these up, most have quietly disappeared from today's typical menus. Let's rewind the flavor clock. Chicken a la King. Chicken a la King is a dish made with chopped chicken in a rich cream sauce, often including mushrooms, pimentos, and sometimes peas. This American recipe goes back to the early 1900s, with a few New York hotels claiming to have invented it. By the 1970s, it became a popular way to make use of leftover chicken, usually served over toast, rice, or puff pastry shells. It was a favorite at ladies' luncheons and casual dinner parties. Its creamy sauce and bright colors made it both filling and nice to look at. And using canned ingredients helped home cooks pull together a special meal without much hassle. As more women joined the workforce in the 70s, meals like Chicken a la King became a helpful option for busy mothers wanting to put together something memorable without spending hours in the kitchen. Recipe cards from that time often suggested making the sauce ahead of time on the weekend and simply reheating it during the week, which made it an affordable and practical choice for many families. Quiche. In the 1970s, America, quiche became known as a symbol of elegant dining. This savory French tart featured a flaky crust filled with eggs, cream, bacon, and Swiss cheese. First popular in upscale restaurants, it soon made its way into everyday kitchens as Americans developed a taste for French cooking. Women's magazines often highlighted quiche recipes, promoting them as ideal choices for brunches and lighter dinners. Despite its fancy-sounding name, it could be made ahead of time, served at room temperature, and easily customized with whatever vegetables or cheeses were on hand. It became a regular feature at dinner parties and the growing trend of weekend brunches, where friends would gather over mimosas and enjoy slices of quiche alongside simple salads. Ham steak with pineapple. Ham steak with pineapple brought together sweet and savory flavors in a way that made it a popular dinner choice, especially in the 1970s. This easy dish involved grilling or pan-frying a ham steak until browned, then topping it with a slice of pineapple, and sometimes adding a maraschino cherry for a festive look. It first became popular in the United States during the mid-20th century and stayed a favorite through the decade, offering a quick and satisfying meal. The mix of tropical flavors fit right in with the growing American interest in island-inspired foods, and it was often served with sides like scalloped potatoes or green beans. Ham steak with pineapple captured the playful spirit of the time, combining convenience with a fun presentation. During the 1970s, when tiki culture was at its peak, dishes like this helped bring a bit of that exotic flair into everyday kitchens. Some home cooks took it a step further by brushing the ham with a brown sugar glaze or adding a splash of rum for extra caramelization. Baked Alaska. Baked Alaska was the ultimate dessert for making a splash at 1970s dinner parties. It featured a core of ice cream covered in meringue, then quickly baked to create a striking hot and cold effect that never failed to impress. Although the dessert dates back to the 19th century, it made a strong comeback in the 1970s as hosts looked for standout dishes to serve at their gatherings. To make it, a layer of sponge cake is topped with ice cream, fully wrapped in meringue, and baked at high heat or sometimes flambéed with liquor. The meringue acts as insulation, keeping the ice cream frozen while the outside turns golden and crisp. Baked Alaska fit perfectly into the decade's love for theatrical dining, combining cooking skill with a bit of showmanship. During the 1970s, new twists appeared too, with hosts swapping out plain vanilla ice cream for flavors like chocolate or mint. Successfully pulling off a Baked Alaska took careful timing and temperature control, and managing to serve one perfectly earned home cooks plenty of bragging rights at the table. Chicken Devon. Chicken Devon is a classic casserole made with chicken and broccoli, all covered in a creamy cheese sauce and baked until golden. It first appeared in the early 1900s at the Dean Parisian restaurant in New York City, where it was named after the restaurant itself. Originally created to show off the chef's French cooking skills, Chicken Devon found a new home in American kitchens by the middle of the 20th century, mixing elegance with everyday simplicity. By the 1970s, it had become a popular way to use up leftover chicken, with many home cooks swapping in convenience ingredients like canned soup. It fit perfectly into the era's love for creamy casseroles that could be made ahead of time and feed a whole family. The dish's flexibility made it especially useful during the 1970s energy crisis, since it could be baked alongside other meals to save oven space and cut down on energy use. Magazines like Good Housekeeping often promoted casseroles like Chicken Devon for their one-pan convenience. It appealed to both older generations, who valued its ties to classic cooking, and younger homemakers, who appreciated the quick, simplified versions. In many families, making chicken devon on Sundays became a weekly tradition, using leftover roast chicken to mark the start of a new week. School cookbooks and community fundraising collections often included a version of it, sometimes with extras like water chestnuts for crunch or a handful of sliced almonds on top, showing just how much it had become part of American home cooking by the mid-1970s. Beef Wellington. Beef Wellington was the ultimate showstopper for special occasions in the 1970s, featuring beef tenderloin covered in pâté and mushroom duxelles, all wrapped in puff pastry and baked to a golden finish. Named after the Duke of Wellington, this impressive dish symbolized the height of sophisticated home entertaining during the decade. Making beef Wellington was seen as a true test of a home cook's skill, with its many steps and the careful timing needed to achieve a perfectly medium-rare center. It often appeared in gourmet magazines and cookbooks of the time, promoted as the ideal centerpiece for milestone celebrations. Its rich ingredients and stunning presentation made it especially popular around the holidays, when hosts wanted to serve something memorable. Though it demanded time and precision, Beef Wellington captured the spirit of 1970s home cooking, where ambitious projects and European-inspired dishes were embraced with enthusiasm. A well-made Beef Wellington didn't just impress guests during the meal. Compliments would often continue for days afterward, solidifying its place as a true badge of honor for home entertainers. Steak Diane. Steak Diane is a memorable dish made with tender cuts of beef, topped with a rich cognac sauce, often flambéed at the table to create a bit of dining drama. It first gained attention in mid-20th century America and takes its name from Diana, the Roman goddess of the hunt. The preparation involves pan-frying beef tenderloin, then making a sauce from the pan juices, cognac, butter, mustard, and Worcestershire sauce. Lighting the sauce on fire was a signature move that deepened its flavors and added some excitement to the meal. Steak Diane earned its reputation in upscale New York City restaurants like the Drake and the Sheraton Netherland, where celebrities were regulars. It is thought to have first appeared in the 1950s and became a symbol of elegant dining through the 1970s. Often served with mashed potatoes or vegetables, it captured the style of mid-century meals. As the decade went on, more home cooks tried their hand at Steak Diane, aiming to bring a taste of fine dining into their own kitchens. Swedish meatballs. Swedish meatballs became a household favorite in America during the 1970s, helped along by the growing interest in international foods. These small, tender meatballs, made with a mix of ground beef and pork and flavored with nutmeg and allspice, were often served in a creamy gravy. They quickly became a staple at cocktail parties. Traditionally paired with lingonberry jam, they gave home cooks an easy way to bring a bit of Scandinavian flavor to the table. You'd often find them kept warm in electric chafing dishes at parties, or served as a comforting family dinner over a plate of egg noodles. Their popularity grew so much that Swedish meatballs became a common feature in frozen meals, and showed up in just about every community cookbook published in the 1970s. This love for Swedish meatballs lined up with Americans' growing excitement about international travel, as overseas flights were becoming more affordable for middle-class families for the first time. Companies like Stouffer's and Swanson helped keep the trend going by adding Swedish meatballs to their frozen dinner menus. At home, cooks were proud to perfect their own versions, often tweaking the recipes to suit American tastes and ingredient availability. Many families had their own special touch, whether it was a splash of Worcestershire sauce or a favorite ratio of beef to pork. These small changes made Swedish meatballs a dish that felt both adventurous and familiar, letting hosts serve something a little worldly while still keeping it cozy and welcoming. A perfect fit for a decade when Americans were starting to explore new flavors from around the world. Beef stroganoff. Back in the 1970s, beef stroganoff was a go-to meal for dinner parties across America. This hearty dish combined tender beef strips with a creamy sour cream sauce, usually spooned over a bed of egg noodles. It started out as a Russian recipe from the 1800s, but became widely popular in the U.S. after World War II. By the time the 70s rolled around, the dish had picked up a few updates, like the addition of mushrooms and onions, and many home cooks turned to cream of mushroom soup to save time. Stroganoff showed up often in family cookbooks and party menus, loved for its rich taste and fancy appearance. One of the reasons it stuck with families during that time was how it made cheaper cuts of meat feel like a special treat, fitting right in with the tighter budgets of the era. Magazines like Family Circle and Better Homes and Gardens kept the recipe alive, reminding people it worked just as well for an ordinary weeknight meal as it did for hosting friends. Veal Oscar. Veal Oscar is a rich and elegant dish made with breaded veal cutlets, topped with crab meat, asparagus, and a generous pour of hollandaise sauce. It was named after King Oscar II of Sweden, who was known for his love of fine food, and first appeared in the late 1800s. The traditional method involves breading and frying veal cutlets, then layering them with sautéed crab and steamed asparagus before finishing the dish with a smooth, buttery hollandaise. Veal Oscar became especially popular in upscale restaurants during the 1970s, when American diners were drawn to extravagant continental dishes. Its polished presentation and use of premium ingredients made it a go-to choice for special occasions, fitting perfectly with the decade's admiration for classic European cooking. The 1970s also marked the peak of tableside service in restaurants, and Veal Oscar often took center stage, with the final touches assembled right in front of guests. It also reflected the growing love for surf and turf combinations, blending land and sea in a single luxurious plate. Waldorf salad. Waldorf salad was a refreshing favorite on many dinner tables during the 1970s. First created in the late 1890s at New York's Waldorf Astoria Hotel, the original version combined crisp apples, celery, walnuts, and grapes tossed in a mayonnaise dressing. In the 1970s, it became a regular feature at dinner parties and holiday gatherings, often served on a bed of lettuce as a stylish starter. The salad captured the era's love of giving classic American dishes a modern update. New variations started appearing, with some cooks adding mini marshmallows or swapping some of the mayonnaise for yogurt to make it a little lighter. Its mix of sweet and savory flavors, along with the contrast between crunchy and creamy textures, made it especially appealing during a time when home cooks embraced both tradition and new ideas. Waldorf salad moved beyond its hotel restaurant roots to become a staple at ladies' luncheons and bridge club meetings, where serving it in neat lettuce cups showed an extra bit of care and elegance. Magazines suggested special occasion twists too, like presenting it in hollowed-out apples or avocado halves to make the dish even more eye-catching. Department stores like Macy's and Marshall Field's also featured Waldorf salad on their menus, helping tie it to the idea of casual yet refined dining. For many middle-class families, including walnuts, still seen as something of a treat, gave the salad a touch of luxury. Thanks to its easy preparation, balanced flavors, and association with the famous hotel, Waldorf salad brought a bit of New York charm to everything from family meals to special gatherings, enjoyed by young and old alike throughout the decade. Beef bourguignon. In the 1970s, serving beef bourguignon was a clear sign that a home cook was serious about creating something memorable. Often paired with crusty bread or a bed of buttered noodles, the dish symbolized a growing move away from quick-fix meals toward more traditional, hands-on cooking. Its popularity reflected the decade's newfound respect for slower, more thoughtful approaches in the kitchen, an idea championed by Julia Child. For many American cooks, beef bourguignon was their first real step into the world of French cuisine, turning the kitchen into a space for creativity rather than just daily routine. Its deep, comforting flavors made it a perfect match for the lively dinner party culture that thrived throughout the decade. Turkey tetrazzini. Turkey tetrazzini is a rich and comforting pasta bake made with turkey, mushrooms, and Parmesan cheese, all baked until bubbly and golden. The dish was first created by chef Ernest Arguin at the Palace Hotel in San Francisco as a tribute to Italian opera singer Luisa Tetrazzini in the early 1900s. The classic method involves sautéing turkey and mushrooms, blending them into a creamy sauce made with butter, flour, milk, and chicken broth. This mixture is then tossed with cooked spaghetti, topped with Parmesan, and baked until it turns golden and delicious. In the 1970s, turkey tetrazzini became a popular way for families to use up leftover Thanksgiving turkey. It showed up frequently in women's magazines and family cookbooks, offering a creamy, familiar meal that fit right into the decade's love of casseroles. Its convenience and ability to feed a crowd made it a practical choice during a time when many households were looking for affordable, satisfying meals. Turkey tetrazzini turned holiday leftovers into something new and comforting that families eagerly anticipated almost as much as the original celebration. Tuna noodle casserole. Tuna noodle casserole was a budget-friendly favorite in many American homes during the 1970s. This simple and filling dish brought together egg noodles, canned tuna, and cream of mushroom soup, often topped with crushed potato chips or breadcrumbs for extra crunch. It first became popular during the Depression and World War II when meat was hard to come by, and it stayed a common choice for weeknight dinners into the 1970s. The dish reflected the era's focus on using pantry staples to create affordable, filling meals in a single pan. Many recipe cards from the time included small upgrades, like adding cheese or pimentos for extra flavor and color. Although it's sometimes looked down on today as old-fashioned, tuna noodle casserole offered steady comfort during a decade when many families were watching their budgets closely. The 1970s versions often showed a growing interest in nutrition too, with some recipes suggesting whole wheat noodles or extra vegetables to boost the meal's health value. Campbell's Soup Company helped keep the dish in the spotlight, promoting it as an easy answer for busy mothers trying to balance work and family life. If you're enjoying this stroll through the past, we'd love for you to consider subscribing to the channel. It helps us dig up more forgotten favorites and share them with you. Now let's jump back into our tasty journey through the 1970s. Fondue. In the 1970s, fondue parties were a popular way to bring people together, with a pot of melted cheese often taking center stage at gatherings. This Swiss tradition found a strong following in American homes, and it wasn't uncommon for newlyweds to receive fondue sets as wedding gifts. Classic cheese fondue was made by melting Gruyere and Emmental with white wine, a bit of garlic, and a splash of kirsch. Guests would use long forks to dip cubes of bread into the hot, creamy mixture. Before long, chocolate and oil versions also gained a following. Fondue captured the spirit of casual, interactive dining that was so popular during the decade. It wasn't just about the food, it was about the shared experience. Fondue made dinners feel more relaxed and social, adding a touch of European flair without needing complicated cooking skills. The trend grew so big that fondue restaurants popped up in major cities, offering menus full of cheese, oil, and chocolate options. Salisbury steak. Salisbury steak was a classic family dinner in the 1970s, made with ground beef patties topped with a rich brown gravy filled with mushrooms and onions. Even though the name sounded fancy, it was really an affordable way to make a little ground beef go a long way. The dish traces back to Dr. J.H. Salisbury in the late 1800s, who promoted it as part of his meat-based diet plan. By the 1970s, Salisbury steak had become a common sight in TV dinners and home kitchens. It was usually served with mashed potatoes and green peas, fitting right into the traditional meat and potatoes American meal. Its comforting nature made it especially popular during the tough economic times of the decade. Over the years, different regions added their own spin. Southern cooks sometimes mixed bell peppers into the gravy, while Midwestern versions often added a bit of oatmeal to the patties for extra tenderness. Besides being affordable, it was also a great starter recipe for beginner cooks, often showing up in early cookbook collections. Stuffed bell peppers. Stuffed bell peppers were a favorite dinner choice in the 1970s, made by filling peppers with a mix of ground beef, rice, tomato sauce, and cheese. This budget-friendly and colorful dish helped home cooks make ground beef go further while putting something attractive on the table. The usual method involved briefly boiling the peppers, stuffing them with the meat mixture, and baking them until they were tender. In the 1970s, new versions appeared that used shortcuts like instant rice and canned tomato soup to make the process even easier. Stuffed peppers often showed up in women's magazines as a smart way to get more vegetables into family meals, especially helpful for dealing with picky eaters. Many home cooks took pride in arranging a mix of green, red, and yellow peppers at a time when colorful and well-presented meals were starting to be appreciated outside of fancy restaurants. Veal marsala. Veal marsala is a refined Italian dish featuring tender veal cutlets cooked in a rich sauce made with marsala wine. It traces its roots back to Sicily, where marsala wine has been part of the local culture since the 18th century. The traditional approach calls for lightly dusting the veal in flour, pan-frying it in butter until golden, then deglazing the pan with marsala wine. Mushrooms are typically added and sometimes a splash of cream, creating a sauce that's both sweet and savory. By the 1970s, as Americans started to explore Italian cooking beyond the familiar staples of spaghetti and meatballs, veal marsala became a standout dish on restaurant menus. Its deep flavors and straightforward preparation made it an appealing option for home cooks hoping to recreate a restaurant-quality meal. It was often served with pasta or potatoes to soak up the rich sauce and complement the tender veal. Veal marsala reflected a broader shift in American dining, with growing appreciation for the variety and depth of regional Italian cuisines. Chicken Kiev. Chicken Kiev delivers a flavorful surprise with its chicken breasts wrapped around herbed butter, coated in crisp breadcrumbs, and fried until golden. There's a bit of a debate about where it started. Some say it was first made by French chefs in the early 1800s, while others believe it came from a Ukrainian chef working in Moscow in the early 1900s. No matter its true origins, Chicken Kiev started gaining attention internationally around the middle of the 20th century and became a popular choice at dinner parties and special occasions during the 1970s. Traditional preparation involves flattening the chicken, placing a mixture of butter, garlic, and herbs inside, rolling it up, breading it, and frying it to a golden crisp. When sliced open, the melted butter flows out, creating a rich, built-in sauce. By the 1960s, Chicken Kiev had earned a spot on menus across America, often served alongside vegetables or rice. Its rise in the 1970s lined up with a growing American interest in Eastern European food. Influenced by improved cultural ties with the Soviet bloc, the showy moment of slicing into the crispy coating and watching the butter pour out became a highlight at the table. Magazines of the time often shared tips for mastering the dish, like freezing the butter mixture before stuffing or using careful rolling techniques to keep it from leaking. Chicken Kiev's mix of dramatic presentation and manageable preparation made it a hit with home cooks who wanted to impress guests without needing professional skills. As kitchen gadgets like food processors became more common, companies even showed how they could help with recipes like Chicken Kiev, blending old-world flair with modern convenience. The dish stayed a favorite through the end of the decade, firmly planting itself as a bridge between Eastern European traditions and American home cooking. Duck à l'orange. Duck à l'orange is a classic French dish that combines roasted duck with a bright, tangy orange sauce. Its roots go back to 19th century France, where it was a favorite among the aristocracy. The duck is typically roasted until the skin is crisp, and the sauce is made by reducing orange juice, stock, and a splash of Grand Marnier or Cointreau. By the 1970s, duck à l'orange had become a popular choice for elegant dinners at home, often saved for special occasions. The rich, savory duck paired with the fresh citrus sauce created a memorable balance of flavors that reflected its refined origins. Preparing the dish was seen as a real achievement, something that required careful timing and attention to detail. Julia Child's demonstration of duck à l'orange on her PBS series The French Chef gave American home cooks the confidence to tackle this restaurant-quality dish in their own kitchens. Shrimp cocktail. Shrimp cocktail was the must-have appetizer at 1970s dinner parties and upscale restaurants alike. This simple, yet elegant starter featured chilled boiled shrimp paired with a tangy cocktail sauce, often served in a glass. In the 1970s, it was rare to find a fine dining menu without shrimp cocktail listed, and home hosts frequently chose it to open a special meal. Its appeal came from the combination of a luxury ingredient with an easy preparation that anyone could manage. The classic presentation, shrimp neatly arranged around the rim of a glass with the sauce waiting in the bottom, became an unmistakable symbol of the era's style. Shrimp cocktail captured the decade's love for entertaining that felt both refined and approachable. Many home cooks took pride in perfecting their cocktail sauce, often adding secret touches like a splash of bourbon or a favorite brand of chili sauce. Its popularity was so strong that special glassware designed just for serving shrimp cocktail became a common gift for newlyweds throughout the decade. Coquille Saint-Jacques. Coquille Saint-Jacques is an elegant dish featuring scallops baked in a rich, creamy sauce, often presented right in their shells. Its name, which means saint, James's shells, honors the patron saint of pilgrims and ties back to the pilgrimage route to Santiago de Compostela in Spain. To prepare it, scallops are first gently sautéed in butter, then coated with a sauce made from white wine, cream, and shallots. A sprinkle of breadcrumbs on top adds a golden, crisp finish after baking. During the 1970s, as Americans expanded their interest in French cuisine beyond the basics, Coquille Saint-Jacques became a standout choice for special dinners and parties. Its refined look, served directly in scallop shells, matched the era's focus on gourmet cooking and artistic food presentation. The dish also reflected the growing confidence of home cooks who were starting to work with tools and ingredients once limited to professional kitchens. For many hosts, serving Coquille Saint-Jacques became a reliable way to impress guests and bring a little French sophistication to the dinner table. Sole Meunière. Sole Meunière is a light and elegant French dish made by gently coating fish fillets in flour, sautéing them in butter and finishing with a splash of lemon. The name meunière comes from the classic French method of preparation, meaning miller's style. The dish first won over diners in France in the early 1900s, becoming a standard in fine dining. Julia Child's first experience with Sole Meunière at La Rue Restaurant in 1948 left such an impression that it helped ignite her passion for French cooking, a moment that later introduced many Americans to the dish. During the 1970s, as Julia Child's television shows and cookbooks inspired more home cooks, Sole Meunière became a popular choice for those aiming to create simple but sophisticated meals. Its bright, fresh flavors allowed the fish to shine without heavy sauces. The growing health movement of the decade, which encouraged lighter meals over meat-heavy diets, also boosted its appeal. With just a few good ingredients and straightforward preparation, Sole Meunière fit perfectly into the era's focus on ingredient-driven cooking. Chicken cordon bleu. Chicken cordon bleu is a rich and satisfying dish made by stuffing breaded chicken breasts with ham and cheese. The name, which means blue ribbon in French, hints at its respected beginnings, believed to have started in Switzerland sometime in the mid-1900s. It didn't take long for it to win over American tastes. The process starts by flattening the chicken, adding a layer of ham and Swiss cheese, rolling it up, coating it in breadcrumbs, and then either frying or baking it until golden brown. In the United States, chicken cordon bleu gained even more fans in the 1970s with the growing popularity of gourmet frozen dinners, where it stood out for keeping its flavor and texture even after reheating. Often served at formal dinners or special gatherings during the decade, it was loved for its crunchy outside and the savory melted center hidden inside. During the 1970s, chicken cordon bleu struck the right balance between fancy European cooking and everyday American practicality. It was impressive enough to serve at a dinner party, but simple enough for home cooks to get the hang of. The dish often showed up on menus paired with sides like rice pilaf and asparagus, creating a plate that looked polished by the standards of the time. Women's magazines from the era offered plenty of variations to keep it interesting. Some swapped in cheeses like Gruyere or mozzarella, while others recommended prosciutto instead of ham. As more women began working outside the home, grocery stores started offering partially prepared versions of chicken cordon bleu, making it easier to serve something that looked complicated without spending hours in the kitchen. One of the small pleasures of the dish was the moment when the knife cut through the crisp coating, releasing the melted cheese inside, a bit of dining theater that made meals feel a little more special around the family table. Surf and turf. Surf and turf set the gold standard for a luxury meal, bringing together the best of land and sea by pairing a juicy steak with tender lobster. Making its way onto the American dining scene in the 1960s, it quickly became the highlight of fine dining throughout the 1970s. While there's some debate over who first put it on the menu, it's usually tied to upscale steakhouses and seafood restaurants. The name surf and turf perfectly sums up the indulgence, usually a perfectly grilled beef steak like filet mignon, served alongside a broiled lobster tail, complete with melted butter and sometimes a rich béarnaise sauce. By the 1970s, surf and turf was a go-to choice for special occasions and fancy nights out, capturing the decade's love of piling premium ingredients onto one unforgettable plate. It also reflected the growing prosperity of the middle class, who could now treat themselves to luxury foods once reserved for the wealthy. Looking back, these classic dishes from the 1970s tell us a lot about the decade's food trends, from embracing global flavors to balancing convenience with a touch of gourmet ambition. While many of these meals have slipped out of everyday menus, they still capture the spirit of a time when food was both adventurous and comforting. Did this trip through 1970s favorites bring back memories of family dinners at your table? If you remember enjoying any of these classics, we'd love to hear your stories in the comments. And if you enjoyed this journey down memory lane, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more nostalgic looks at the foods, fashions, and fads of decades past. Your support helps us keep these cherished memories alive.